Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, I heard somebody say my name. How you doing? A good morning to you. Beautiful morning here in Pittsburgh, PA on August 17th, 2023. Oh my God. Hey, just a word of warning. You know whose bad side you never want to get on? I'm telling you. You might thank me at some point. Virginia Montanez. Friends call her Ginny. She is an extraordinary writer, chronicler of things happening in Pittsburgh. Someone fascinated by Pittsburgh history, a compiler of Pittsburgh history, a novelist, a space exploration nut and astronomer nut. Just this indefatigable, restless mind, which is evidenced if you are on the receiving end of the wondrous stuff she puts out. She also, among her many traits, is ferocious. And that ferocity is evident in a piece that I saw last night that she wrote. And it is essentially a letter to KDKA's Marty Griffin. And she rips him apart. It goes on and on and on. I was going to read it to you, but it'd take the whole show. Specifically, apparently, and I did not know about this, he's got some new bit where, and I guess this is on KDKA television, it's called Get Marty, Take a Walk. And there he is, microphone, photographer in hand. I can see exactly where he is. He's exactly where our studios used to be on Smithfield Street, next to the hot dog place. And he's with the guy who wanted to be mayor, who pretended to be a Democrat, and turns out he was a Trumper. His name was Marino, former cop. And he's walking the whole bit. And apparently it goes on for a long time as he takes a walk with this guy in that area of Smithfield, which is exactly the part of the downtown I am very, very familiar with, having worked down there for years and years. And the whole purpose, well, I'll just give you his opening line, which is mind-boggling that he said this. He says, "We're going to show folks why this town is going down the toilet." You know, I'm sure you've noticed, God knows I have, and I've talked about it, this new perception, this understanding that everybody certainly agrees, because there's anecdote after anecdote about how dangerous Pittsburgh's downtown is, how horrible and horrifying it is. And people just take that in, take it on, and that's that. I want to point out, too, that this is a Republican talking point. Philadelphia used to get this still does, but I guess we were spared because Philly's bigger. Philly was also always held out as somehow dangerous and dirty and this and that. Any city run by Democrats, Republicans go after. But if it's run by a black Democrat, well, then all hell breaks loose. Right? Make no mistake, this is a Republican ploy. It's we were talking yesterday about the new Republican ploy of launching slander suits against little community newspapers who don't have the money to afford the legal fees to fight the suits and end up going out of business. Right? So, let me just read. I just so appreciate it. She eviscerates him in this. For one thing, of course, he never, in I guess this whole thing he put out there that God knows how many thousands of people saw and took as gospel. Because Marty Griffin I saw it on KDK. He provides no data. And that's what you get, believe me, when you try to talk to people about the state of Pittsburgh, especially its downtown. And for him to start this off, we're going to show folks why this town is going down the toilet. And according to what she writes to him, he never does. You don't see it in the report at all. I guess you see some people sitting on a sidewalk, and that's supposed to make you homeless people, probably, because there were a lot of homeless people down there when I was there. And I think the homeless population has only increased. I guess they're supposed to become invisible. I don't know. Anyway, just let me read a little of this, just because she's so brutal. Dear Marty Griffin, you don't have to be like this. And I bet you weren't always like this. Were you? Do you look at yourself into your heart and find honesty and sincerity there? Do you look at the motivations that drive you to say the things you do? And if so, do you find authenticity there? I mean, for you to look deep past the surface where you've convinced yourself you're a journalist with integrity and honorable intentions. What's the framework holding up that facade you've spit-shined and shellacked into place? I have bad news. That facade, while it reflects your own image back to you, for the rest of us, it is a crystal clear window. We can see through it, deeply into it. And what we see is not what you think you're showing us. We see your disingenuousness, your motives, your true agenda. You've been doing some terrible things lately. First, then she goes in to talk about, again, reality. And she goes into data on homelessness. And obviously, she spent a lot of time. He says, after putting out graphs and numbers, see, those are the numbers behind the people, Marty, not just in downtown Pittsburgh, but in the whole county. That's the best estimate for what is happening on the street. But again, you've already done this work, and it took you 2 hours to do it, because that's how long it took me. Because I wanted to understand the situation as it exists in data before I dove into how it exists in your head, before you eject it out of your mouth and into a microphone with insincere concern on your face. The thing is, I'm not sure you're using any data. Because if you were, you'd see that violent crime is actually down. On the south side, it's down in downtown. And then she goes after him in just I just brilliant. She said, I watched 23 minutes of this. You showed no litter. Talked about, here's I guess what he says in the report. We have to make everybody see and feel what's going on downtown, because just talking about it, you don't get the full experience of what has happened here and what is continuing happening. People and their business are just being ignored. We're going to show them. We're going to show everybody what's going on in real time. And she says, so I watched 23 minutes. What did I see? You had mentioned filth. You showed no litter, ugliness. You turned down one of the most gorgeous alleys in the entire downtown. I know what alley that is. That's Strawberry Way. And it's a delight. And she points that out. Always exhibiting some artist's vision of urban beauty. The current design is one of my daughter's favorites. She's been loving Strawberry Way for a long, long time. And then he talked about crime. He says, and Marty, that same turn onto Strawberry Way revealed a police officer on bike patrol. And weirdly, you accosted several people with your insincerity and aggressiveness and your stupid ass microphone, and you didn't get your face punched. Whoa! You showed two people who sitting on the steps of a church, Smithfield, that until very recently housed a shelter, who are actively being helped by a homeless advocate who explained the process and how they aren't just leaving people here to die, that safety came first. And then when you asked that lovely human if it was fair to say downtown had deteriorated, he mentioned that with the shelter system efforts, things had improved drastically over the last few months. And boy, did you end that interview right then and there. We can't have any good news when we're out here trying to make things seem like a dystopian hellscape. Boy, she just rips him apart. Nearly all you did was talk. You showed nothing of substance, nothing but fear. Nothing to fear. The first business owner immediately said things had gotten better. The homeless and addiction advocate plainly told you things were improving. You pointed to a door. You saw a cop. You accosted passersby. You extrapolated anecdotes to apocalypse. Marty. Walk through town. You didn't leave that damn corner because you had an agenda. And the canvas on which you wanted to present that agenda was that particular corner. And your agenda? Well, it's fear. Scare those who aren't visiting into thinking the city and county leadership have completely checked out on caring about downtown. Scare them into believing crime is up. Scare them into anger that the city is being flushed down the toilet. Inject fear via the perception of crime. Create fear that keeps people from actually coming downtown and seeing it for themselves, thus creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the fact that this is a political agenda. Okay, cards on the table, Montanez says. We know where yours lie and why it behooves you to lead your listeners into believing Ed Gainey is destroying the city. She says, I have openly criticized Ed Gainey, and I will continue to do so. I don't know that he's being as effective as a mayor as he can be. But I know that downtown's problems are not one man's doing. I also know the data show that there are people in the city-county building who are dedicated to addressing the problems we face. And she finishes, I guess this new thing he's doing is called Take a Walk with Marty. And she says, okay, Marty, you have our attention. We're looking at you. We're looking deep, and we do not see empathy. No matter how many shoulders you grab in your creepy, off-putting way, we don't see empathy. We are looking, and we do not see sincerity in your overly eager, active listening. We do not see love. We do not see integrity. We see your agenda. We know salaciousness, sensationalism, and scandal trump facts, data, and good solid reporting for you, and have for a long time now. You marched around that corner with your microphone and your righteous indignation and your big talking weird friend, and acted like you cared and that you wanted to make things better. But when you talk to a person who is actively doing just that, trying to make things better, you silenced him. We see you. You don't have to be like this. But please believe me when I tell you that for as long as I choose to be like this, most of us will see you for what you are. As long as you choose to be like this, most of you see you for what you are. A monger of fear. Take a walk, Marty, indeed. But take your lies with you when you go. Okay, so Virginia Montanez, an open letter to Marty Griffin, really well done, and on a subject that's been really bothering me, because it's media and local media that creates the reality that people have in their heads when in fact it's not. And it's a Republican effort. It's a right-wing effort to always paint any place that would be cities that Democrats control as somehow filthy and dangerous. Now, some facts. What do I got here? So yesterday, the mayor and the county executive talked about the fact that there was an effort, actually it was a private funding of $2 million to put public toilets downtown, which is a incredibly good idea. And until they get those, they're going to have very nice portable toilets, not porta potties, much, much nicer. They will be maintained by that program, I forget what it's called, of people who are downtown picking things up and picking up the litter and stuff. And the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership is going to be keeping a constant dashboard, a database of all the a database of all the facts about crime, about how many people are living downtown, how many people are working downtown. And here are the most recent numbers, okay? And this is coming from the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. Currently, and this is for the month of July because, well, August is still happening. There were 1.7 million visitors downtown during the month of July, which is the highest recorded since 2019. What does that tell you? The pandemic. That came in 20. And the partnership said that the downtown has seen, since the pandemic, and COVID's still out there, has seen an 81% recovery of average daily visits of employees, residents, tourists, compared to the pre-pandemic levels. 81%. That's pretty damn good. The economy section that they're crunching the numbers, says that there is now in Pittsburgh a 91% residential occupancy rate. Whoa! Almost all of the downtown living availabilities are taken, 91%, and 81% commercial real estate occupancy rate. They actually they do data about how clean the city is. Shows that 304,000 square feet of alleys were cleaned in July, as well as 67,000 square feet of sidewalks and nearly 78,000 pounds of garbage removed. And so these numbers will be kept up to date and available to anyone who wants to engage in reality as opposed to falling into the trap of right-wing political slander. Okay, just wanted to say. God, I get so annoyed. But I have to tell you, Virginia Montanez, she really can rip somebody apart, and she does it wonderfully because she uses facts. There too. I mentioned. I think I mentioned. In an aside, I mentioned again another Republican tactic is trying to take down actual newspapers as opposed to faux journalists like Marty Griffin, who are really just they're foot soldiers for the right wing. Are we surprised that the newspaper in Marion, Kansas has been found to have been wrongfully gutted of its equipment? The Marion County attorney said that there was insufficient evidence, for there to have been any such confiscation of materials. There was no crime committed. No crime. Doesn't say anything here about the idiot judge who granted the warrant. And of course, that doesn't. They got their paper out yesterday. But the publisher's mother is still dead. Died as a result of this raid, because they not only raided the offices, they raided her home. And her son, the publisher, was up until 5 a.m. yesterday morning getting that paper out, still having not buried his mother. And he said, she would, even though that raid made her last 24 hours on Earth such a hell, she would be tickled pink to know that the result was 2,000 more paid subscribers to the Marion County Record. 2,000 people around the country sent in money to subscribe to the paper. He would have been tickled. And in that regard, there's a GoFundMe, by the way, for the paper in Wausau, Wisconsin, which is also under attack in a bogus slander suit by a Republican legislator. And it's killing them financially. They don't have the money to keep a little paper with 4 reporters going and fight the suit. And somebody started a GoFundMe. And I'm willing to bet that little paper is going to... I know I gave a big hunk. And if you have an opportunity, go for it. I can't think of a better way. I get that. I'd love to see, I guess I'll have to check it out to see how much they've got. They had $150,000 that they were looking for just to pay off the outstanding legal bills. But I have a feeling that they're going to get more than that. And I certainly hope they will. Gotta fight. And we have a caller. Hello.
Hey, Lynn. About Marty Griffin, I think a lot of people forget about the business with him and the pastor that committed suicide.
That's right.
Yeah, because he put promotions on the air featuring his face and saying stuff like how he uncovered illicit and possibly illegal activity by a local minister, activities which or at the very least violated the rules of his denomination. And here all the pastor had done is gone into an adult bookstore in McKeesport. So
he was gay. No, I'm understanding he was gay, right?
Yeah.
I think the minister was gay. Right.
And people, I think a lot of people have forgotten Marty Griffin's contribution to his passing.
Well, I remember at the time I said, Marty Griffin, you've got blood on your hands. Because it was this salacious promo. And yes, a Northside minister caught on camera, only here. You'll see it. And the guy killed himself.
Yeah, he took aspirin and alcohol and overdosed on both.
Dead.
Yeah, and that's all on Marty Griffin's hands. He also used to misgender Dr. Rachel Levine all the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's just a sleaze bag, and KDK, they really need to get rid of him instead of like highlighting him as like a major talent on that.
Well, they got nothing but crap. I mean, I tuned in, I can't remember, a few months ago just to see or hear for a second. And it's what? Do you have to be brain dead to get a show? I mean,
pretty much.
They're not. I don't know who I was listening to. Some guy, and he was dumb as a rock. He had no personality. No, there was nothing there. And I'm thinking, my God. But they have the right politics, and of course they let Chris Moore, a black liberal, on in the Weekend Ghetto, which is where I loved it. The little bit of time I was there. Yeah.
He's the only reason to listen to that station. The rest of it's just absolutely garbage.
I agree.
Ever since they started having Rush Limbaugh on there, it's gone downhill, and he's long gone. So but that's all.
Okay.
Excuse me. That's all I wanted to say. So, just keep that in mind. Just remember that, Pittsburgh. So.
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, his wonderful journalism caused a poor man who was gay to kill himself. There's no doubt about the cause and effect there. None. Little Tony writes about Griffin. He's been on this downtown is bad kick for some time. Feel bad for Larry Richards, who I could listen to from. Larry's a nice guy, but I can't. I'm sorry, you can't. Oh, he's on in the morning with Larry. Oh, God. Larry can hardly get a word in. Marty has ruined the show. I can't imagine. Because, Larry's a nice person. I don't know what his politics are. But I worked with him when I was at WTAE, and he was at the time there. He's just a nice guy. Wow. The station's just awful. It has been for years. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? I don't. You have to be brain dead to be listening. Do not listen. Okay. What else we got? Oh, I realize that I have to start watching local news, TV news, because, since I'm not getting the PG anymore, I need to at least know if something, has happened. I understand there was a car chase yesterday. I don't know if anybody got hurt, but I thought we were stopping car chases in urban, through heavily populated areas. My son said his bus was turned around because of this incident. I mean, and this was all to serve a warrant. I thought, don't we have rules that it's not worth the possible loss of life of an innocent person for the cops to be able to serve a friggin' warrant? I don't know. Just saying. So I saw that. And I do see that the man who was critically injured in the plum explosion has died. So that explosion resulted in 6 deaths. And on NBC News last night, they did a story on it. Not quite on it, but on Pennsylvania and the fact that there are so many abandoned gas and oil wells in this state. They put up a map of where they are, and it just pretty much a little red dot for everyone, and it just makes the whole state look like we're just sitting on top of abandoned gas wells and oil wells. And the report, very well done, went on to talk about the dangers of these wells and of the unplugged wells, because the corporations, the gas and oil companies and the fracking companies that go in and dig them, just leave them. They don't clean up after themselves. And they showed how these open gas holes, there's holes left, or sometimes pipes sticking out of the ground. And they're emitting, leaking methane, leaking all kinds of crap into our water. A lot of the video they took was in the Allegheny National Forest. And I mean, there's methane, which then I guess breathes arsenic and all of that going into the water table. And then they interviewed our governor, who has made it a priority to try to cap these things. And I guess they've already capped like 700, I think he said. But that's I mean, there's 1,000,000, just huge numbers. And the reason they did the story was they seem to be implying, and I think a lot of other people think, that when they figure out what caused this explosion, it could well be that it's because this house and that entire development is sitting on top of an abandoned oil land, for want of a better word. And there are uncapped uncapped wells right there. I mean, right there. So, I don't know. That could be it. That was certainly the hook that NBC News decided to show. And they showed other incidents of houses catching fire or blow because of the dangers of these uncapped wells. So, just saying. Incredible. You know, and I'm thinking, I don't think it was mentioned in the report. So you and I are paying to cap these wells? Tax dollars? The state, trying to keep people safe, is trying to cap all these wells? What about the SOB capitalist sons of bitches who, I guess I said SOB already, who dug them, walked away with the money and left the crap for generations and generations? Well, the governor did say a lot of the companies that did these wells are long gone, but not all of them. I saw a headline, I couldn't believe it. It says, stopgap bill will be necessary to avoid shutting down government. And I thought, what? I thought we just, didn't we just sort of skirt that? It's coming back. The Republicans simply will not allow the government to function. I guess they bring us to the brink. And they're going to do it again because apparently we're facing another shutdown for lack of funds on October 1. And of course, the Republicans, God, my head hurts. So I saw some interesting things. Some quickies, okay? Some quickies. Let me find them for you. So Trump is now going to be, after next week sometime, he will be out on bail. Unless he gets jailed before then from some pissed off judge. He will be out on bail in 4 different jurisdictions. And this is the guy Republicans want to be the president of the United States. So sure. Anyway, there's a piece about where he's going to have to be booked next week. And it's Atlanta, of course, county jail, Fulton County Jail, which I guess is so notorious that songs have been written about it. It's called it's on Rice Street. It's called the Rice Street Jail. And the New York Times did a piece on it and said it is not a place for the faint of heart. Last year, a detainee was found dead in his cell, his body covered in bites from bed bugs and other insects. Good God. I might even make the Allegheny County Jail look like a palace. There are 2 songs out. One that use the jail's address. 901 Rice Street is the name of one of the songs. And popular rapper has a song whose title refers to Rice Street with a, I guess, expletive that they can't mention. And a line from Killer Mike rap goes, locked in the Rice Street. I don't have the whole damn thing here. Okay, so it's notorious. Now, I remember the sheriff saying a few weeks ago that he's going to be treated like anybody else. Well, if he's treated like anybody else, he's going to be put in a holding cell, and he's going to be handcuffed, and he's going to be fingerprinted and mugshotted and all that kind of stuff. And I doubt that he'll end up being treated like anybody else because the Secret Service won't allow it. Damn it. So there's that. I don't know. Are you aware of this thing? I just started seeing it yesterday on my social media, that Trump, went ballistic and put out on his social media. He's using the term riggers. And whenever he uses it, he puts it in all caps. And if you take that R away, you can see what you get. And that's how it's now being used. He's using, the election's been rigged, and he says they only want to, they got to find the riggers. And God help us. I mean, we all know what that is, and it's immediately been picked up by his base. And so you're seeing riggers all over social media. Mm-hmm. What else I got here? Oh my God. So, access to the abortion pill, a U.S. appeals court, this is that conservative appeals court, it has ordered a ban on all telemedicine prescriptions and a ban on shipments of it by mail, which is, of course, the only two ways women in the states that have essentially banned abortion can get an abortion. The only good news is that this will not immediately take effect, that the Supreme Court is going to have to weigh in. God help us, because they're the ones who got us to this point. Incredible. And we have a caller. Hey there. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, the news media, they gave Donald Trump all that airtime, and now they're making a big deal out of all this other stuff. They're the ones that got him in there. They helped him get in. They gave him free airtime all that time now they're going to ride the wave again to get their ratings up. They're not credible at all. I don't even watch them anymore. I can't stand them. They're acting like the trial's tomorrow, and it's probably next year sometime.
There's no way they cannot cover.
Yeah, they can. They can stop. They can stop tomorrow, but they want the ratings up. They could cut back on how much coverage they give them. Well, they're going to give them full coverage, full-on coverage. Every day they're going to pound this stuff until election because it gets the ratings up, and that's all they care about. And their stories are a lot of them. Even MSNBC, if you look into them close enough, they lie too. They all tell lies. They are a bunch of liars. They're not as bad as Fox, but they're all liars. I listened to their stories, that I researched them. They lie, they lie, they lie. They all lie. So that's a bunch of liars, so might as well, cover a liar. They're not as bad as him, no, but I am so fed up with the media. I haven't watched them. All I do is vote Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. And it's just so irritating. Every time they're going to run this in the ground, every day on MSNBC, on Nicole's Walls, they got about the trial, and they act like it's going to happen tomorrow. Probably won't next year. This time, it probably still won't be on. That's all.
It's the big. You have to listen. It's the biggest story. This will be the trial of the century. Every one of these will be the trial of the century. We've never been in this situation. And I mean, you cannot, they do have to cover it. And you could argue that their coverage harms him. You could argue that constant coverage, the constant reminder of what a crook he is, harms him and helps the Democrats.
That might be true. I don't think it's about Biden or Trump. It's about freedom this time and democracy.
I agree with you.
We're going to win the election because of that. Because people don't we are not the country like China or Russia. We just don't put up with, even if we have to fight each other and kill one another, we will not put up with anybody treating us like another country. We're just not built that way. I'm not built that way. You're not built that way. We just aren't like that. We will die over it and we don't care. And that's why when they say, "Oh, it's going to be this and that," nope, never going to be that, because we'll kill one another before that happens. That's just how we are. Look at the history. Read the history. Then I read about Abraham Lincoln. He was, oh my God, that guy. I thought he was. You should read some of the stuff, the history on him. That man. Wow.
What? Now he's a horrible.
You should read some of the stuff. You just go research it, the history, and get, good credible research. And it's just amazing.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm not going to try to rebut, but yeah. I hear you. I'll tell you what, I saw a quote that said, when one of the things we know about learning from history is that we never do.
No. Exactly.
Ever.
No, we won't.
And we are seeing that right now. Never learn from history.
And they say people are so terrible today. We always were terrible. That's the whole thing. Go back and read the history. We were really bad. It's just coming to light. The light bulb went off now. We've been that way. We've been that country forever. And we gloss it all over. Just like you were talking about the blacks, they don't want to teach it in the schools of history. Another thing they don't tell you about the immigration that came over here. More people died building this country in the factories than all the wars combined. They never tell you about that, but they paint this rosy picture of how they come over looking for opportunity and work. It wasn't that. The guys, the businessmen, did not want to pay the black man because they were getting free labor. So what they did is they brought in all the immigrants so they could get low wages and, work 24 hours, basically slavery, but you get paid a little. That's not told. The true story is never told. It's that fake history book, which they always do. I don't know. Just the more you research, the more you get sick in this stuff.
I hear you. I
shouldn't read it, but it's interesting as hell. Which I always thought it was like that anyway, so it wasn't no big shock.
Okay.
You can see I'm in a foul
You're in a mood.
Morning.
I know you're in a bad mood. I hear you. I don't agree with everything you said, but I completely understand and sympathize. You sound like me when I was 19 years old and had gone off to college and was finding out that all the stuff I'd been taught was wrong. Yeah. When I started hearing, learning the history, I was enraged. I was just enraged. So I understand your rage, but you do have to keep it under control and not say all. Like they all. Don't put MSNBC and Fox in the same sentence. It's not the same.
Well,
it's not. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay then.
Okay. Bye. Feel better.
Bye. Okay.
Bye. Apparently, we have another caller. Hello.
Good morning, Lynn. Ray from Lawrenceville. How are you?
I'm fine, Ray.
Good. Hey, Lynn, I want to preface this with saying I am the least fan of Marty Griffin. I consider him to actually be a murderer. All right, he has blood on his hands, and I hate the man. But I think that they do us a favor by putting him out there, because now we can just attack him and not address the problem of what we don't address downtown. Because I walked after a Riverhound match down Smithfield Street to catch a bus. I crossed, rather than wait over there, I'll cross Smithfield Street Bridge and take a walk. I stepped over a human being, Lynn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
I understand.
The smell and the human suffering that we allow to happen because we want to treat these people as victims, that they are powerless to help themselves. And it's heartbreaking, Lynn. And we can't say, oh, Marty Griffin thinks it's heartbreaking or wants to show the horrors of it. So it's not true. It is true.
Listen, I thought it was true. When I walked out, I would walk out of 600 Smithfield, I think that was the address, where I did my show. And there were, I got to know some of the homeless guys and which little, little alcoves on the sidewalk that they slept in. And you stepped over people.
That was then. It is exponentially worse.
It made my. Well, but we know this is a national problem.
It absolutely is. And I encourage you, I would encourage you, and any of the listeners, there's a book called San Francisco by Michael Schellenberger, who is on our side. He's a leftist. He when as a teenager, went to Nicaragua, to help the Sandinistas and, or not, but, to help the poor there. This is a man on our side. And he wrote a book filled with data, filled with research about the real cause of what's going on in San Francisco and similar cities, Denver, and now, Philadelphia, you mentioned earlier. Kensington Street, it's like the living dead. And this is not a poverty issue. It is not a poverty issue. These are not homeless camps. They are open air drug markets. I know people in recovery who've told me walking down Smithfield Street, and we're talking not 2 a.m. When I walked it was 9:30, right? So it was, it was day. It was still the day. The smell of the fentanyl and crystal meth being smoked is overwhelming to them. It brings back all those addictive issues. I have a customer that we just landed millions of dollars worth of equipment, from a pharmaceutical company. Hurry up. We don't want just one. We want a duplicate, all to make Narcan, right?
Yeah.
So the pharmaceutical companies that gave us this problem are now profiting
making
from
money.
A so-called solution to our problem.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, Lynn, in spite of that article about, Marty didn't show the dirt, didn't show the filth. Yeah, they've been running around cleaning up because of the horror that was going on. But if toilets are a solution to a problem, what was the problem? The problem was defecation and urination on streets.
That's, again, an urban problem all over the country. I know.
Well, that doesn't excuse our lack of real compassion for these people. We won't require them to either take their medication if they're psychotic or stop taking drugs if they're drug addicts in order to progress through shelters into homes. We are not talking about what the real problem is, Lynn. And the real problem,
I think the real problem is pretty complex. Are you going to narrow it down to one thing? You're saying it's drugs?
It's fentanyl.
I know fentanyl's a big part of it. So maybe you agree with DeSantis, we should bomb Mexico.
Well,
to bomb Mexico.
My father was on fentanyl when he had cancer.
Sure.
Mexico didn't invent fentanyl. Fentanyl is just a cheaper replacement for heroin, which was a cheaper replacement for OxyContin. And let's go back to the pharmaceutical companies, right? We are not saying to these people, we will help you, but you have to do X, Y, or Z to get there. And listen, that Smithfield Street is a little bit cleaned up because we shuffled the people around. But when that shelter reopens, when the weather drops below a certain temperature, which is what the criteria for reopening that church shelter is, it'll just start all over again, because those suffering people are addicts. In the book that I mentioned, that's San Francisco, he interviewed the actual homeless advocates. He said 100% of the advocates said, when asked the question, what percentage of these people out here on Skid Row or wherever are either addicted or mentally ill? And they all answered 100%. None of them, they're not there because they're out of money. That's not the reason.
Out of money. Well, okay.
They're out of money, but the reason they're out of money is they're addicted.
The rising cost of housing, though, does
no, Lynn.
Put
if that's the case, why
jeopardy?
If it's housing issues, why isn't Miami riddled with this? And they're not. If it's just housing, is it too expensive so people live on the street? Then Mount Lebanon should have the highest amount of homeless people. Their housing price is the highest. Lawrenceville's housing is the highest.
The services available to people are downtown or in urban cores. They're never in.
And what are the services available to them? None of them require them to. None of them require them address the real issue, mental illness or drug addiction.
Well, we don't, but there's nowhere for. Again, mental illness is a public health issue. It's a public health issue.
That's right.
And if the public access to health care, where are they going to do it?
Here's a fact. Here's a fact. If a cop picks up a guy publicly defecating, and he takes him and he says, "Okay, he's a schizophrenic, and he hasn't taken his medication in 3 months," the cop can't say to him, we're going to either forcibly institutionalize you and make you take your medicine. No, not allowed to do that. And we're not allowed to say you're going to jail unless you take your medication. No, can't do that. The ACLU and the civil rights, you can't require people. What do we do? What do we do?
Well, we obviously, I don't know. We obviously, whatever it is we're doing or not doing is not working.
That's right.
We'll agree on that.
Yeah, let's admit putting toilets in downtown Pittsburgh isn't solving the problem.
But it'll help.
Right? It's addressing a symptom.
Yeah, yes, but it will help. It'll give those people a place to, defecate.
Sure, so they can. So it's even easier to stay on the street and buy your fentanyl.
Well, listen.
Talk to a recovering addict who lived in those places. I have. Literally, I have. All right?
Okay.
I know Marty Griffin's a horse's ass, but his horse's acidness doesn't make the problem not real.
Thank you.
Read the book, please.
Okay, right. Got it. So it's a read by.
Bye.
So it's the read by. Oh my. I've been wanting to comment on what Texas is hell on earth. Why does anybody live there? What they're doing have you seen what they've done? How is the state able? The state has taken, the people of Houston elected a school board, and the governor just tossed them out. How do these Republican governors constantly? I mean, it's bizarre when they can't win the elections. I don't understand. They've closed down schools. It is chaos in Houston now. The state is running the schools. The new superintendent, a former Army Ranger and founder of a charter school network, has no official certification for the Houston job, and he's now running them. The huge school district, largest school district in Texas. A woman, a teacher, a librarian in that district who'd worked there for 40 years, had won awards for her work. She was informed she was done because her library was going to be changed was going to be wiped out, turned into a multi-purpose computer room, and also used in part for discipline. So they're firing librarians, closing down libraries in some of the city's poorest schools. And all of this imposed on the people who had elected representatives who've been tossed out by Governor Abbott. I can't even. And then, oh my God, Texas. Texas is throwing people off of Medicaid left, right, and center. You know, the Fed said when COVID hit that they told these states, you cannot remove people from Medicaid during the pandemic, and we'll give you additional funding, but you're not throwing people off. And that policy was lifted in April. And since then, Texas has thrown over 500,000 people, mostly women and children, off of Medicaid. And the stories of what that means. I just, the cruelty is mind-boggling. All right. I guess that's it. Sorry to end on that, but I've been wanting to talk about Texas for some time and have done it in greater specificity. Anyway, okay. It's Thursday, right? I've been all mixed up all week because I didn't do a show Monday. It's Thursday, so I won't talk to you again till Monday. God help us what's going to happen in the interim. Oy. Okay. Pace ourselves. Careful out there.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.